Hello everyone. So I picked this book up, There's No Cream in Cream Soda, for my choice for my informational fiction, nonfiction book. And this is by Zachman, and the illustrations are done by Peter Donnelly. And this book exceeded my expectations and then some. It is so unique and special, and I really think that it presents information that might not be especially interesting to some young kids in a way that's so captivating and intriguing and fascinating. And I really enjoyed reading this. This could very well be an adult book, and I don't say that as a kind of like testament to the writing or anything. I do think that this book appeals to kids the most, and it's presented in a way that's very digestible and comprehensible for kids. But it's just so interesting, and the writing is so fantastic, as are the illustrations, that I think that adults equally would enjoy this book. So if any parents were looking for a kind of informational book to read with their child, I definitely think that this would be a great choice. But this book is just awesome, and there are so many reasons for it being such a special book. But throughout, so we have each of the different chapters. So this chapter is called Water, Water Everywhere, and I personally learned so much about the history of water across the world, especially like the creation of water fountains and how water fountains came to be. And there are so many disgusting parts of history, and just the fact that germs as a whole were discovered way too late. I cannot imagine going through some of the stuff that people went through. But water fountains were like drank from the same cup. So if you were thirsty and you were in a public place or whatever, you would go to a water fountain, and there would be one single cup that you would drink and everyone else would drink. And it was really disgusting. Eventually they moved on to paper cups, and then finally we just moved away from cups in general. But I just thought that was so interesting, and it's really cool to just see or experience these parts of history in such a fun way and have it be presented to you in such a fun and silly and interesting way. But it is so fantastic. But one of my favorite parts of this book is that at the end of every chapter they have something called a concoction corner. So I was thinking that if you were looking to promote this book or just kind of get kids excited about informational books, that maybe doing one of these concoction corners on some sort of social media platform to say, okay, I just picked up this book, and this book has something really cool called the concoction corner. So at the end of every chapter they have something that's basically like an experiment that you can perform at home to engage with the information that you just acquired and everything. So for the water chapter, there's something called a water taste test that you can do, and it's basically kind of mocking the idea that you can recognize difference in taste of waters based on the water bottle or the water distributor. So they ask you to choose 4 different brands of non-sparkling bottled water in at least 16-ounce bottles, and then they have a little bit of a score sheet. So you would have 4 people participate in this concoction corner experiment, and they would score the taste of each one and see if they can tell the difference between certain brands and guess it. I personally wanted to do that as a little experiment with my brother. We're both soda fanatics, and we were going to try and see if we could actually taste the difference between Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Pepsi, whatever. And despite us feeling so strongly about one brand and being brand loyalists, but I think that that's so fun and really would be able to get the kids to engage with the content and absorb it even more. But I really did want to share some of the fascinating information that I got from this. So one of the facts that I wanted to share that's a little bit disgusting but really shows how it may appeal to kids is that when homogenization first was becoming a thing, they wanted to prove to people why it is the optimal choice in creating milk that's edible or potable. So I'm going to read this little excerpt. So it says, one group of test subjects drank regular milk and the other drank homogenized. Then they threw up into clear glass jars. The plain milk had curdled in the stomach while the homogenized milk stayed smooth. McDonald dairy salesmen carried around the vomit jars to prove to people that they should buy homogenized milk. Although some people might have sworn off milk forever after seeing those jars, homogenized became the standard within a few years. So it's full of really interesting facts, and every chapter has all of these little special facts that are presented in cool ways. So this actually talks about how lactose tolerance comes from a mutation in a gene of Europeans, and that there are entire populations that are lactose intolerant because that gene wasn't mutated, and the gene that mutated that creates a tolerance for lactose after you're a baby traces back to Europe. So anyone who really has like a tolerance for lactose, their lineage can kind of be traced back to Europe. So this is stuff that I just did not know that I really enjoyed learning about. So at the end of each chapter, you have something called Oh No Nutrition, and they have this for every chapter, and it talks about the kind of like nutritional aspects to these drinks, like soda, coffee, tea, milk, water, etc. And then at the end of each chapter, to finish it, they have a section called Top It Off, and it's just a series of facts that are especially interesting just to kind of conclude the chapter with. So overall, I enjoyed reading this book so much. It was a great choice. I'm very happy with my choice to pick this one up, and I will have absolutely no problem recommending this, displaying this. And again, I think that this could be a great opportunity to do some sort of promotion where you can do those concoction corners, even just to get kids to see you and see you having fun and being silly and engaging with the books and like not being above that or whatever. So personally, I'm thinking about suggesting doing one of those concoction corner things. Some of them are just so easy and doesn't require a lot of cooking and stuff. They do have one concoction that makes tea into a magnet, which is really cool. There's also one on coffee that it's a recipe for chili cone coffee, and it's because in Ethiopia, which is the origin place of coffee, they wanted to just increase that feeling of great energy and like the euphoria associated with coffee at the time, and so they would eat coffee or consume coffee with animal fat to just kind of make you feel as good as possible. So it's a recipe for chili con carne. Obviously that might be a little bit more difficult to do in a library space, but I think that some of the experiments, concoctions can be so much fun and really just make the books seem as interesting as possible, and like a kid would really want to pick it up. So I recommend this, and I definitely suggest you grab it, or if your library doesn't own a copy and you work in a library, I would suggest investing in this one. It should be worth your while. So this is There's No Cream in Cream Soda by Kim Zachman.